Hey guys, Crispy Bacon here with what may be the strongest melee Warlock build in the game. I call it Frostbite Tempest, or if you prefer, you can call it the Big Slap. Let's take a look. A quick overview of the required components for this build. The main combination will consist of a 1-2 punch shotgun, tractor cannon, Winter's Guile, and bottom tree Voidwalker. Our main goal is to proc Devour on the bottom tree Voidwalker subclass, build up increasing stacks of melee damage using the Winter's Guile melee effect, and then experience the absolute nonsense that is a 1-2 punch melee hit that has a 5 stack of Winter's Guile's perk. Here's what that looks like. And for a comparison, here's how much Nova Bomb does on that same target. So as you can see, the Winter's Guile perk, when it is at ×5, does stack with the 1-2 punch extra damage from the shotgun. And I don't think that people really understand how much damage this is currently doing. It certainly is a lot of damage by itself, and then we're also taking Tractor Cannon and giving ourselves a 30% buff against that target, which adds up to quite a bit more. And what you have to remember is Tractor Cannon is actually a debuff, meaning that we actually still have room for a buff such as Weapons of Light or the Well's additional damage to increase this even further. But for the sake of this video, I'm kind of sticking towards a solo melee build, so we won't really take into account our teammates. The last thing I want to mention for those that are just trying to get in and out of this video is we're actually using From the Depths as our mod on our bond. And what this means is that when we cast our Void Bomb while critically wounded, we are doing a ton more damage, and then stack this with the Tractor Cannon debuff, and you might be able to imagine how much damage we're really outputting here. So those are the main two combos that we're using with this build, but that basically just scratches the surface in terms of all of the setup that I have going on behind the scenes, and all of the strategies that we can implement here. If you want to skip ahead to something that you want to hear about, make sure you check the description to see the timestamps so that you can be hearing the relevant information. My goal here was to create a melee Warlock build, and originally I started on Stormcaller bottom tree, which was working pretty well, but the problem is when you're up close and personal slapping and shotgunning, health is a very hot commodity. And so bottom tree Voidwalker really becomes the obvious choice here, just so that we can proc Devour and heal off of all those melee kills to stay in the fight. Devour is the main perk on bottom tree Voidwalker and can be procced in a few different ways. We can either kill an enemy with a melee ability, or we can hold our grenade button to overcharge our grenade, and that activates Devour manually. When Devour activates, we immediately heal to full health, and then we have 10 seconds to kill another enemy, and when we kill that enemy, we recharge our grenade, heal back to full health, and then also reset the cooldown on Devour so that it goes back to 10 seconds. But before we get into why this synergizes so well with the build, let's talk more about the weapons and gear that we're using so that you can start building it yourself. The most important thing to have is a shotgun that has the perk called 1-2 punch. This can be a kinetic shotgun or an energy shotgun, so it doesn't really matter what slot that it's in. Check the link in the description for a full list of shotguns that can roll this perk. I happen to roll this perk on a Prophet of Doom, which is from the new Garden of Salvation raid, but you definitely don't need to raid to get a shotgun with this perk. As for the other weapon that will be either in your kinetic or your energy, you can really use whatever you want. I happen to be using Galron's right hand and the Night Watch scout rifle, both because they had Demolitionist on it, and that really helped this grenade heavy playstyle. And again, we won't be throwing a ton of grenades, but we will be using that overcharge functionality from bottom tree Voidwalker quite a bit. And as we mentioned earlier, for a heavy slot we'll be using the Tractor Cannon. This is an exotic shotgun that can be obtained from any exotic drop source in the game, so make sure you're just playing the game, doing high level activities, and also check with Zer between Friday and Tuesday because he can actually sell it himself. As for our exotic armor piece, we're going to be using Winter's Guile. Just like Tractor Cannon, this exotic can be found from any exotic drop source in the game or bought from Zer. Its exotic perk is called Warlord's Sigil. Eliminating enemies with melee attacks increases your melee damage. At 5 stacks, we're doing about 10 times the original melee damage, and when we stack this with the rest of our build, we really get some absurd outcomes. We basically become this invincible slapping machine that goes around shooting stuff in the face with a shotgun and then slapping it. And for lower health targets, we really don't even need to use ammo. We can just be slapping absolutely everything and one-shotting every enemy we see, while also healing from that Devour perk. As for mods with this build, stick with me here. On Prophet of Doom, we've got Major Spec to kill those higher health enemies. On our helmet, we've got Intellect. On our arms, we've got Impact Induction, which means that when we slap an enemy with our melee, we're actually recharging our grenade. And then Shotgun Loader to make sure that both Tractor Cannon and Prophet of Doom can be reloaded fast. On our chest, we've got Breach Refractor and Unflinching Shotgun Aim. Breach Refractor means that when we're killing enemies with an anti-barrier round weapon, we're recharging our grenade, which I have comboed with Galron's right hand, which makes for very quick grenade gain. And then Unflinching Shotgun Aim, we need to make sure that we land every pellet within the shotgun shot to get the benefit of 1-2 punch. And Unflinching Shotgun Aim makes sure that when we're getting hit by enemies, we're still landing our shots properly. On our legs, we've got another Intellect mod, and then on our bond, we've got From the Depths, which is that artifact mod, and then we've also got Hands On, which means that every time we're killing an enemy with a melee attack, we're actually getting extra super energy, which obviously synergizes perfectly with the melee build that we're going for here. Again, for those who were unaware, the Breach Refractor mod and the From the Depths mod can actually be found on the Gatelord's Eye artifact. To get these mods, you just need to keep playing the game and earning XP, and eventually you will earn the mod, and then you can place it on the piece of gear that the column it's in specifies. Lastly, for our stats, we'll want to prioritize mobility so that we can get around the map quickly and dodge incoming enemy fire, which will be very useful close range, and then intellect so that we can have our super up often, so that we can put that From the Depths mod to use. So again, in moment-to-moment gameplay, we really just want to be slapping absolutely everything. For weaker trash mobs, we can usually just kill them in one melee hit, or if they're a bit tougher than that, we can always just shoot them once or twice with our primary weapon. When we run into majors, that's really when we want to pull out the shotgun, shoot the enemy with it, and then benefit from that 1-2 punch, which is pretty strong by itself, but when we have the extra stacks from the Winter's Guile, we can really wipe out these guys pretty quick. And while we're killing all these enemies, we do want to remember to have our Devour procced before we go into an engagement. So remember to overcharge your grenade or kill a really weak enemy with the melee attack to begin. Then it's on the really big boys that we want to pull out our Tractor Cannon, shoot them once with that, switch to our other shotgun, shoot them with that to activate 1-2 punch, and then slap the hell out of them. Ideal scenario, that slap should have the 5x stack from Winter's Guile, but it's not always guaranteed that you'll have that stack going into a boss fight. That's something that will depend on how many mobs are around the boss and how easily you can keep off that stack from Winter's Guile. And that's really the hard part of this build, right? We're juggling a lot of different things. We have the Devour effect, we have the stacks from Winter's Guile, and then we have to shoot with the Tractor Cannon and then quickly switch to the shotgun to get the 1-2 punch and then melee. And then if we're in close range, a boss or an enemy may punch us or use the smash attack, which should bring us down to critically wounded, and that is the perfect time to activate our Nova Bomb after the Tractor Cannon hit, and then use the From the Depths power to really do some damage. And when all of these things line up perfectly, there is seriously nothing on Warlock that is more satisfying. I do consider this a somewhat high-level playstyle, but that really makes it all that more satisfying that you have to think about each engagement and make sure that you're making the best out of the scenario that you're in. One thing I did want to make sure I mention, even if you don't have the 5 stacks of the Winter's Guile perk, it's still worth your while to do the Tractor Cannon 1-2 punch melee combo on a boss, because first of all it still does quite a bit of damage, but more importantly it actually staggers the boss more often than not. And this can be really useful when you're playing with a team and the boss is fighting back and it's hard to get the damage on the boss. So keeping a boss infinitely staggered is extremely useful, so make sure you do it even when you don't have the 5 stacks. But anyways guys, that'll be the end of my commentary for this video. The rest of this video will be just raw gameplay, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Closing notes, just wanted to say thank you all so much for the support lately. It's been really great talking with you all in the comments section, and we've been having a lot of people join up on the Discord and watch on Twitch and YouTube when I live stream, and it's really just great having these conversations with you guys. If you want to get in on any of that, make sure to check the links in the description. But anyways guys, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.
High-value target identified. Get him! You're close! Fill the bank, you get a primeval. Portal's ready. Go say hello. You're nearly there. Fill the bank. Portal's ready. Invader on the field. Careful. Your light's supercharged. Turn up the heat on that primeval. Portal's ready. Yes, ma'am. That's what I call it. Down, but they got 2 kills.
We thank you, Guardian, and we will never forget.